Good morning. This is Perry Freeman. This is June 8th, Monday. I retired after 34 years in law enforcement and started this channel expecting to do some training and recruiting maybe for some new cops, because it's hard to find new cops, good cops. Now, I did some of that for a while before this George Floyd incident happened. Now, before the George Floyd murder, I had done a video encouraging people to cooperate with the police. And this "you have a right to remain silent" thing, how attorneys benefit from that financially, and offered a suggestion that maybe by cooperating, things would go quicker and you might be on your way, and it wouldn't get pulled through the courts for months, etc. Now, I've got 34 years experience in law enforcement with 2 different departments. I've been a chief. I worked homicide. If you've watched any of my videos, you know all that. My dad was a cop, my uncle was a cop, my brother just retired from Colorado Springs Police Department. We have well over 100 years of experience. So I've seen the evolution of law enforcement. I changed my whole attitude once I saw what happened to Mr. Floyd. And I did a video as soon as I became aware of it, condemning what happened to Mr. Floyd. I think I did that very firmly and strongly, and I talked to the cops, and I talked about getting each other under control. There's always that bad apple. Very small percentage of cops are bad. They're just out there trying to do their job. So that video addressed, I guess, what they call the First Amendment auditors, I guess they're called, who encourage people to not cooperate with the police. But anyway, things are changing. I predicted the riots. Of course, they were already starting when I did that video about Mr. Floyd. And I predicted they would expand to other cities, and of course, we all know what's happened. Let me just say a few things this morning and get this off my chest. Yes, cops need to be retrained. I've talked about this already. The latest rant, and I've already done a video on this, is defund the police. Do away with the police, for God's sakes. Where are you coming from with that? Retrain, reevaluate what's going on in law enforcement and in training, and I was in training for a long time, trained hundreds of cops. Yes, that needs to be changed, but you can't defund the police departments. Come on. And let me just cover 2 areas real quick to maybe save something tragic from happening again. First of all, the media would lead us to believe that there's this enormous number of young black men being murdered while they're unarmed by law enforcement in the United States. That's just a flat-out lie. Look at the statistics. I think it's like 15 unarmed black men were killed by law enforcement last year in the United States. Now, come on. I'm not saying that's good. But what I'm saying is something happened to escalate it to that point. First of all, like my last video, look at the facts, follow the money, see who's organizing these riots and this kind of thing. There's a huge movement going on. Wake up. That was the basis of my last video. Okay, so it's not as out of control as the media would make you believe. There are plenty of heavy-handed cops, yes. There's over 800,000 cops in this country. Of course, there's going to be a bad apple here and there. I've been face to face, nose to nose with cops who I thought were out of line. And I told them, this is why the public hates cops, because of the way you acted today. And I've done that to many cops. And if some of you are watching this, make a comment. Say, yeah, he did do that to me. I've watched it since the early 50s when my dad became a cop. And I've watched it up to today. Let me just explain. A cop goes to work. He is not looking for trouble. He is not looking for a confrontation. He or she is not out there targeting minorities. They're just doing their job. They want to get through their shift. They want to go home to their family. They're just doing a job. And it's hard to recruit good cops today because of what the media has done to us. Now, like I said, they're not out there looking for trouble. Something suspicious has happened. Someone's called 911. Then dispatch sends a cop, or maybe two cops, whatever, to a scene because something has happened. Or the cop observes a suspicious activity. He or she has to react to that. That's their job. There's these socially accepted rules which become laws, which I've talked about before. A cop has to react to that. Maybe it's a traffic violation and they make a stop on somebody. Again, those are rules and regulations. Those are traffic laws that they're enforcing. Now, cops are trained in what's called the escalation of force. You start out by asking someone to comply, like, give me your driver's license. Do you know why I've stopped you? Do you know why I'm contacting you? That's the first approach. It's just a request. When people tell them where they can go with that, it becomes an order. You then change your demeanor and you order that person to comply with whatever your request is, to answer your question, to provide identification, whatever it might be. Yeah. Sure, maybe the Constitution allows you to be silent. But you just want to get the situation over with, I would think, and so does the cop. Now, if there's no cooperation at that point, the cop has to go to what's called soft hand techniques. Maybe a hand on an elbow, opening the door of the car, whatever it might be. And if they get resistance there, they have to escalate to the next level, which is what we call hard hand techniques. Maybe cuffing the person, maybe searching the person for their own safety. Obviously, the person is hiding something, not cooperating. They're antagonizing the situation. The cop has to do something. First of all, they have a right to pat you down for guns, knives, those kind of things for their own protection. And you become hostile toward a cop, they're going to do that search. And of course, it leads to, if there's more resistance and it gets more physical, harder hand techniques. Unfortunately, the chokehold has been used in many situations, and that a couple of times that's turned out really bad. But tasers, batons, and unfortunately, sometimes firearms come out. But my point is, with cooperation, like is socially accepted in the United States, those things would never have to go past just the contact, unless you've committed the crime. And now let's go there. Let's talk to the public. I've talked to cops. I've already talked to cops on these videos. I've talked to cops for 34 years face-to-face and in training classes, many, many hours. I want to talk to the public for a minute. First of all, never run from the police. First of all, don't commit a crime. Don't do something suspicious where you're going to get a 911 call on you or a cop pulling over seeing something suspicious. Don't participate in that, and you won't have those problems. But don't ever run from the police. It's only going to get worse. They have to escalate. They're required to escalate. Obviously, they need to know when to de-escalate, and I've talked about that. When you're pulled over on a traffic stop, keep your hands on your steering wheel where the cops can see your hands. They're worried about going home that night. They don't know who you are. Quit being a jerk. Quit hiding everything. When you get out, quit putting your hands in your pockets, or if you're approached on the street, don't hide your hands. The cops need to see your hands. Put yourself in their position. Quit challenging them. Quit jerking away from them. And these things would not escalate. Try cooperating. Try going with what we have all agreed on are the accepted rules and laws of the country and the rights that the cops have to enforce those. And now we've got this defund the cops movement. Oh boy, those are some real brain trusts there that come up with that idea. I think we need to retrain, re-educate law enforcement. Absolutely. I'd love to be involved in that. But defunding them and giving it to the social services? My God, I have to say the social service operations that I've seen in this country are the most dysfunctional bunch I've ever worked with. Maybe probation is right behind that, and then the court systems. If the systems worked like they were supposed to, we wouldn't be in this mess. We have to save this country. We have to save the image of law enforcement. But you, young black man, young white man, anyone confronted by the police, just cooperate, and these things won't happen. Not condoning in any way what happened to Mr. Floyd. It was tragic. And if 99% of the rest of the law enforcement had been on that scene, they'd have knocked that cop's ass off of Mr. Floyd, and this would have never happened. Apparently, a couple of them told him, this isn't a good idea, you need to stop. I don't know. I don't have that verified. But that was totally out of line. But I'm just saying, things don't get to that point until people have resisted in some fashion to law enforcement. They have a job to do. Just go with the flow. And you'll be on your way if you haven't done anything. In short order. And the cop will be too. And nobody's getting fired. Nobody's going to prison. Nobody's going to die or get hurt. Don't run from the police. Just answer the questions. Cooperate if you haven't done anything and get it over with. If you've committed a crime and you don't want to cooperate with the police, that's your right. But when it comes time that they're going to arrest you and you resist, things are going to get nasty. I never wanted it to get nasty. Did many times. But when people approach you in a furtive manner, when they walk at you with their hands hidden, you're going to react to it. You have to. If you don't, you get yourself killed out there on the street being a cop. I'm trying to encourage young people to apply and become cops because it's hard to find cops nowadays because of what the media has done. I guess that's all I've got to say. We all need to get along. My God, this has got to stop. Yes, I've talked to the chiefs through video. I've talked to the trainers through video. I've talked face-to-face in the classroom. I've talked to administrators with a number of departments about cops' demeanor. We don't have to be a hard ass all the time. My dad taught me you treat everybody like a lady or gentleman until they show you they're a, and I won't use the words, and then at that point you have to become more like them. And that just doesn't work in any situation. That's all I've got. Please make comments, subscribe to my channel. I want to get back to telling stories. I've got lots and lots of interesting stories to tell about experiences I had. I think some of them are pretty entertaining. But I haven't been able to get there yet because I got sidetracked with this tragic situation. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like if you like it. A lot of you won't. You'll do the thumbs down. That's your right, I guess. But stop and think. What I've told you from the beginning of my videos. Cops deal with one thing, one word, truth. And if you'll stop and think about that, everything I've told you here today is the truth. Hopefully you give me a like, subscribe, and I'll hopefully entertain you someday with some very interesting stories working homicide and undercover narcotics. So, have a good day, and let's try to get along.